Tennessee has had some down years as of late, and right now it's not looking too good with Jeremy Pruitt, but one era of volunteer football seems to be forgotten amongst most of the college football world and is known as the Dark Days. You may not really remember it, but at one point, Derek Dooley was the head coach of Tennessee, and it is the forgotten era of Vols football. He managed to go 0-15 versus ranked opponents and never had a winning season in Rocky Top. So what happened during that era, and whatever happened to Mr. Dooley? We will talk about all of that today, but first, if you love college football, I bring the best content on YouTube, so be sure to subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, share it with your friends, comment your thoughts, suggest a future video topic, and stay until the end. Now let's get started with the rise and fall of Derek Dooley. Derek Dooley is the son of legendary Georgia head coach Vince Dooley and was a high school football star. He walked on to Virginia and got a scholarship after only one season there, and he helped the Cavaliers get to 3 straight bowl games. He finished his academic career at Georgia before he decided to start up coaching 2 years later. He went back to Georgia to start as a graduate assistant before he took the wide receivers job at SMU, and he also helped with recruiting there. Nick Saban recognized his talents and hired him at LSU, where he spent a couple of years there and even became the assistant coach at one point. He left with Saban to go to the Miami Dolphins, but in 2006, Louisiana Tech decided to hire Dooley to become their next head coach. From 2008 to 2009, Dooley was the only head football coach in the country who also served as the university's athletic director. In 2008, Dooley led Louisiana Tech to its first postseason victory in 30 years and was named the Louisiana Sports Writers Association Coach of the Year. During his tenure, Dooley implemented a complete overhaul of the infrastructure of the athletic department and everything from staffing to facilities in all external and internal operations of the athletic department, and this all came from the ground up. He turned the Louisiana Tech program around and was likely going to get a chance for a bigger job, but not as big of a job as many people would probably expect. On January 15, 2010, Derek Dooley was hired as the 22nd head football coach at the University of Tennessee. He replaced Lane Kiffin, who had resigned to become the head coach at USC. Dooley inherited a program for which he would be the 3rd head coach in 3 years, and based on all the coaching changes and a bunch of players who had left the university, the 2010 Tennessee football program was expected to be one of the worst teams in school history. Justin Wilcox was the defensive coordinator on the staff there, and he is now the head football coach at California. Tyler Bray was the starting quarterback, Torrin Poole was the running back, and Denarius Moore was the best wide receiver on the team. They also had big-time wide receiver Derek Rogers, and he could have been a star, but things would go south for him. With few scholarship players and a young team, Tennessee started the season at 2-6, and it looked like the season was over. However, they won their last 4 regular season games against below-average opponents and finished the year at 6-6 and became bowl eligible. They almost beat number 12 LSU during the regular season and had a pretty tough schedule, but as I said, that didn't really matter because he made a bowl. They would end up making the Music City Bowl, where they would get into a double overtime thriller with North Carolina, and they'd lose 30-27. They lost all 5 games to ranked opponents, and it was just good that they at least made a bowl game. Dooley brought in the 15th best class in 2011, but there wasn't a lot of star power from it. Bray was back at quarterback, Poole was back at running back, and Derek Rogers had broken out for the Volunteers and become a 1,000-yard receiver. They lost every game to a ranked team once again, got blown out by most of them, and then lost to Kentucky in their final game to miss the bowl and go 5-7. Tennessee football looked really bad, and 2013 was going to be a make-or-break year for him, and luckily he had some weapons. But Derek Rogers failed 3 drug tests and was done, and Dooley's seat had begun to get warm. Tyler Bray was once again the quarterback for the 3rd straight year, Rajon Neal broke out at running back this time, and they had a dynamite pair of wide receivers in Cordero Patterson and Justin Hunter, both of which would become NFL picks. They started out with a win over NC State in the Chick-fil-A kickoff game, and maybe they were getting things together. They lost by 3 to Florida, and the team looked better, but then they lost to number 5 Georgia, number 19 Mississippi State, number 1 Alabama, and number 17 South Carolina, and 3 years in, and Dooley had never beaten a ranked team. They did beat Troy, Akron, and Georgia State though, but then lost to Missouri in 4 overtimes, and then Vanderbilt beat them. And he was officially done. Tennessee had enough, and they had fired Derek Dooley, and Jim Chaney was named the interim head coach. He ended up going 4-7, but Chaney won the game against Kentucky and they went 5-7 on the year. And this was their 3rd consecutive losing season, and the Tennessee fan base was irate, as they should be. This had marked the end of the Derek Dooley era. So what was so bad about him besides the obvious on-field results? Unfortunately, Tennessee was perceived as a team of quitters. They had gained this reputation because in certain games it appeared they had laid down and just given up. From all accounts, Derek Dooley was considered a very intelligent guy, and that was evident in the way he carried himself and spoke in interviews. However, he was not really considered ever to be a big-time coach, especially not an SEC level coach, and he just wasn't seen in a very high light. Apparently, fans always thought Tyler Bray wasn't really trying or didn't really care about the team, and Derek Dooley had to repeatedly tell the fan base that Tyler did, and this was kind of controversial as this guy was the star quarterback, and this was definitely a problem. They were also so bad at kicking that at one point they almost abandoned kicking extra points altogether and just almost went for 2. All that aside, Dooley was not very favorable amongst the Tennessee fan base, and after that, Cincinnati head coach Butch Jones came in and was supposed to fix it. We all know that didn't end up working out. In-state recruiting really struggled under Dooley as well, and the program took a big dip in the last several years in terms of overall prestige and recruiting. He finished 15-21 over his 3-year coaching career at Tennessee, and combined to finish 4-19 within the SEC. He went 0-15 versus ranked teams, and I'm not even sure how that's possible. Even Derek Mason beats a ranked team every once in a while. Players were not so kind to Dooley either. Former Tennessee player Troy Fleming had this to say: "The biggest thing about Coach Jones is he actually does his job, unlike that guy we call Derek Doolittle, who really did very little." That's kind of sad that they had to make fun of the dude and the players didn't see him in that high of a regard, but he would get a coaching chance in another place. He became the wide receivers coach for the Dallas Cowboys after being fired at Tennessee, and he would spend 5 years there, and then somehow get another opportunity in the mighty SEC. Sadly, after Josh Heupel left to take the UCF head coaching job, my Missouri Tigers decided it would be a good idea to hire him as the replacement offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, and I was skeptical and not happy from the very start. He was supposed to bring a more pro-style offense to Mizzou and help Drew Lock, but I think he did a lot more harm than good. Drew Lock was supposed to be a first-round pick going into his senior year, and he ended up falling to the second round, and part of the reason I think that happened is because the season didn't go very well offensively for Missouri, and Drew Lock's numbers took a hit his senior year when Dooley came in. Statistically, Dooley did help Missouri have a solid passing offense, and the metrics really liked the guy, and he may have given Lock some good pro habits, but from a real fan's perspective, his play calling was atrocious at times, he infuriated the fan base on a regular basis, and didn't even manage to get 1 first down in the second half against Kentucky one year. It's not like he didn't have the weapons either, as he had Drew Lock at quarterback, NFL wide receivers Emmanuel Hall and Jonathan Johnson, plus big-time tight end Albert Akawake-Bunam, who's on the Denver Broncos right now. And then he also had Clemson quarterback Kelly Bryant, and his career died at Mizzou, and now his football career is practically over because of him. Maybe it wasn't Dooley's fault in being a little harsh on him, and I'm obviously biased against him. He probably did some good things for Mizzou at one point, but he was fired alongside head coach Barry Odom, and he doesn't have a high-profile job anymore, as he is a, quote, senior offensive assistant, or whatever that is, with the New York Giants. Overall, Dooley was an okay coach and a really good person, and I don't mean to talk crap about his name because I know he's a good guy, but he just wasn't a high-level coach, and just wasn't meant for that kind of job. He should have never been the head coach at Tennessee, and he put them through a 3-year stretch that fans did not like. He struggled at Missouri as well, and his coaching career has kind of gone down the drain. But I really do hope the best for him, and I hope he lands a job that he likes, and I hope he gets more respect than he does. But what do you guys think? If you're a Tennessee fan, let me know what your thoughts are about the Dooley era. If you're a Missouri fan, let me know what you think of the Dooley era at Mizzou, and just overall, who's another coach I should take a look at. Be sure to suggest another future video, and give the video a like before you go so more people can see it, and it'll help my channel grow. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on post notifications if you're new. Check out my video about the downfall of Butch Jones and all my other college football videos on the screen right now. And I hope to see you guys again soon. But until next time, peace.